Honorable Elvis of Free Ankrah is my guest. Good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to call you General, as some of your followers have started doing already.
Good.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing very well by the grace of God. And I'm glad to be on this very great program. You're making waves all over.
Glory belongs to God. What have you been hearing on the grounds on your tour to become General Secretary?
Well, I haven't started my campaign formally yet, but the feedback I'm getting is good, even though I'm not going to be complacent. And people know me. I've served this party for many years, for the best part of my life.
All right.
And so because of the relationships that I've built and the things that I've done, people say, oh, we know you, we know what you are capable of doing, we know what you can do, and we need people like you at this critical time in the history of our party. So it's been great. But like I said, I operate by certain principles, and I call it Politics 101. Number one, never underrate your opponent.
Right.
Politics 102, believe in yourself and your message. Politics 103, never relent until the results are announced. So that's my attitude and approach. So even though I'm very clear in my mind and I'm confident that by the grace of God, I'm going to get a nod, I'm not taking anything for granted at all. And like I said, I haven't started a campaign. When I start the campaign, everybody will know.
What do you bring to the table?
Okay, so I bring a lot of experience. I started my political journey in the University of Ghana. I was president of the Students' Representative Council from 1994 to 1996. I was privileged to do 2 years because the lecturers went on strike for a year.
That's right.
And then I became the NUC's coordinating secretary. And then after that, I worked in the private sector. I was a sales and marketing executive at Mechanical Lloyd. So I do have some corporate experience.
Right.
And then in 2000, I became the parliamentary candidate for Ayawaso West Wuogon. And after the 2000 elections, I went to Lesia to do my master's in international relations. And after that, I had applied to ECOWAS, and I was on the verge of being appointed when Mr. Atuahoe called me and said Professor Mills was coming back to contest the primaries, and he wanted me to be the deputy campaign spokesperson. So I joined that campaign as a deputy campaign manager. Okay. And we won that primaries. Then for the main 2004 elections, I was the deputy campaign coordinator. Professor Joshua Labi was the campaign coordinator, and I was his deputy.
Right.
And then in 2005, I contested for and won as deputy general secretary at the Kufuor Congress. At the same time, I was also appointed as a lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, then IPS. Right. I was the head of English and Communications Department. I lectured from 2005 to 2009, and at the same time also working as the Deputy General Secretary. I was put in charge of operations for the party. So if you're in charge of operations for a party, it means that everything that needs to be done in terms of electoral strategy, in terms of security, in terms of operations, etc., they were all under my ambit, and we won that elections. And then I became the Deputy Minister for Local Government, which I saw as an extension of my work, but at a higher level, because now we were dealing with metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives, traditional authorities, and other stakeholders. And we worked assiduously. We brought a lot of changes. We increased the number of district assemblies. We brought a lot of reforms. The local government service was activated. I served under Honorable Yeliche and Honorable Lufoso Ampofu. And then Professor Mills, may his soul rest in peace, was called by his maker in July, and we had to do the funeral. When we finished the funeral, and around September, I was then appointed as the campaign coordinator for the John Dramani Mahama campaign for the 2012 election. So within 3 months, we traversed the whole country. You know, that was where I put off my academic gown and was doing Chobwe and Mahama all over the place. And then we won that election. And then the Minister of Youth and Sports, I was in the Ministry of Youth and Sports for about till 2014, and then I was moved to the Flagstaff House as a Minister of State. And 2016, I didn't play any major frontal role, but I focus on one of my constituencies. I come from many places. I come from Oti, I come from Ankrah, Achiavi, I come from Ahenema Kokobe in Ashanti. So that seat was endangered. So I focused there and we won that seat. Then after 2016, around end of 2018, 2019, I was in Jimpa Law School and I was called upon to come and be the director of elections. I thought I could combine, but after a while I realized that the work needed a lot of focus, so I had to defer. And that is what I've been till date. And so if you look at all the things that I've been involved in, I've been engaged in, even 2020 that we did not win, we went in to win and we put in our best efforts. From my analysis and the data that we have, we won 142 seats, but the MPP used their machinery. 8 people were murdered in 2020. People don't like talking about it, but it's a fact that 8 people were murdered in 2020 and they stole 5 seats from us.
You're in court with those matters,
yes,
right?
Techiman, Zabzugu, Sekwirioso, Sikado Ketan, and all that. So, Takwan Swayem. So, that was our performance. Whilst in power, we had 106 seats. MPP had 169 seats.
Right.
If you're going to even go by the declaration by the EC, we have 137. We have a speaker who is from our side. We reduced the 1 million deficit down drastically, and we're on the verge of winning the elections, but for manipulations of the EC.
Some say you failed to get John Mahama as the president in 2020, so you don't deserve a chance to be General Secretary.
Every issue has to be looked at within its context.
What is the context here?
So the context is that in 2016, when we were in power, we lost by almost 1 million votes. We had 106 members of parliament. Within a 4-year period, with an incumbent government that outspent us by a ratio of over 100 to 1. I'm sure you heard the MPP's vice chairperson talking about the COVID money. COVID money alone was 1 million. To her alone. You are not talking about what came from the party, what came from Flagstaff. So they outspent us, they used brute force, and in spite of that, we were able to get 142 seats, which they stole 137.
So what are you saying?
1 million deficit. So I'm saying that we did extremely well. If you look at the numbers, of course we couldn't cross the Rubicon, but the momentum is on our side. And therefore, if you look at cumulatively what we've done, I was part of the team. In 2008, we won. I was part of the team in 2012, we won. I was part of the team in 2012, we won. I was part of the team in 2020, and we almost won.
Did you sleep on the job in terms of, we had Mr. Rojo Maitonunu's account in court. He was giving tea without biscuits. Some say he went there with an analog or molecular calculator. In this day and age when digitalization is taking center stage, you were director of elections. They thought that you could have brought in more sophisticated equipment like you saw the NPP do, the coalition center and everything else. What do you say to those claims?
Okay, so first of all, there are different categories of people who say that. We have the general public who do not know the inner workings of the party. Then we even have people in our party who are not privileged to know. And then we have people who know, or are supposed to know, but due to mischief, they propagate those things. We didn't collate our results, etc. So let me state here and now that we collated our results. We had our results by the 8th of December, and leadership were briefed. But before that, for the first time in the history of our party, due to what happened in 2016, the Elections Directorate, which I headed, had a clear mandate to identify, recruit, deploy polling agents, train them on election day, and then to supervise the printing of electoral materials and distribution of same across the country. We did that excellently to perfection. In fact, it was our team that discovered the over 1 million ballot papers that were being printed at InnoLink Printing Press, and we stopped them. So imagine if those 1 million ballot papers had found their way in. In spite of that, on election day, some people were found with unprinted MPP ballot papers. So that was our mandate. What many people do not know is that for the first time, the question of collation and transmission was taken away from our mandate. That was not our mandate. So an IT directorate was created.
Okay.
With the head with structures all across the country, national, region, constituency. So we were
That's
not.
Griffith's.
Yes, I don't want to personalize it. I want to talk about the systems.
Okay, right.
So there was an IT directorate. Their mandate was that when we finish with our job and we sign the Form 8A and B, which we call the pink sheets, then we hand over to them.
Okay.
And then they have the systems in place to do the collation. Indeed, all the systems were there. In fact, I was part of the people who set it up. Everything was there. We had a transmission room, everything. We had different locations. Right. Everything was there. But because of our experience, because we had, joint meetings towards the end to look at how we could collaborate. Based on our experience, we decided that, look, we must have a manual transmission as a backup.
Okay.
Okay?
Was that taken?
Yes. So when on the day the results started coming in, but at the point it wasn't coming in as fast as we expected. So the results were coming using the IT system and everything. When it wasn't coming as fast as we wanted, we then directed and instructed that we should switch to the manual system, which we had in place. Incidentally, the IT team also had built the manual system as their third layer.
Okay.
So they had first layer, second layer, which I can't talk about.
Right, of course.
And then third layer. So at that point, we then collaborated. Synchronized. So we now use the manual system to get all the results. That is why by 8th of December, by 5 p.m., we had all our results.
So why couldn't the CDK show that in court then?
Pause. So we had our results, and the flag bearer and the entire leadership were briefed. Beyond that, in all the 16 regions, we did regional retreats where constituency executives, regional executives came to brief us on everything that happened. Results were collated from constituency. If we didn't collate results, how then could we know that we had 137 seats
but
or 142?
Couldn't show that
and I'll
court.
get there. I want to lay a solid foundation.
Right.
Okay. So anybody at our level who says that results were not collated is either very ignorant, should not come near leadership, or is full of mischief. Because you should know. Because you were supposed to be at the various regional retreats.
Did you miss the regional coalition centers that were introduced in the 2020 elections? Did you miss that?
We didn't miss it. The point I'm trying to drive at, then to answer your question, then comes the point, why did we carry results to
the court? Right.
When we did our collation, we noticed that there were a lot of discrepancies and questions. And so we then called for a recall of the pink sheets. So all pink sheets were then sent to Ankrah.
Okay.
And we set up a pink sheet audit team. Sami Jemfi headed one, Dr. Valerie Sawyer headed one, Larry Bevrulate headed one, Alfred William headed one, and various groups. So we looked at all the pink sheets and we looked at the various infractions on the pink sheets.
Right.
So based on that, we put together our report and handed it over to the legal team. Now, I went to law school for 1 semester. I am not qualified in any way to pronounce on legal issues. And I have confidence in our legal team, headed by no other person than the veritable lawyer, Chachu Chikata. Okay. Our legal team looked at all the facts and decided that they were going to go to court, not on the basis of pink sheets. Don't forget that in 2013, the MPP went to court on the basis of pink sheets. And the court ruled in our favor. We counted the argument that even if there were infractions on some pink sheets, that cannot form the basis of cancellation of the exams. So I, not being part of that meeting, my analysis and inference will be that the legal team, looking at all the issues, will say, look, if we go back to court with the same pink sheets, they will quote back to us the arguments we used in the previous court case. And so we're going to court on the basis of the declaration of the results. So the 2013 case and the 2020 case are significantly different. People think that when you go to court about elections, it has necessarily to be about pink sheets. But in 2021, it was not about pink sheets, it was about the declaration.
Your legal strategy was different.
The contention was that the method and the way the results were declared were illegal, because the first results that were declared, it came up to over 100%. The second was under 100%. And then the third and the fourth, and there were discrepancies. It just wasn't adding up. So the question was, What was the basis of those declarations? What calculations did a whole electoral commission do to arrive at a result that was over 100%? What was the documentation that informed those calculations? What was the input of the various political parties? When the EC noticed that there were discrepancies, did she call the attention of the other political parties for them to have an input into the next calculation? These are legal matters, because the electoral commissioner is the sole returning officer for the presidential elections. So those were the issues, and we had 12 questions or so, which in law they call the interrogatories.
Right.
So the idea was to bring her to the witness box, ask her those questions.
But the Supreme Court shut it down.
Exactly. And then also for discovery, what documentation formed the basis of those things? Because if you have all your results from the regions, constituencies, and you do your calculation, I mean, you should get the right figure. So how can you got it wrong? What went on?
So you say something untoward went on.
Absolutely.
Sponsored by the Electoral Commission.
Absolutely.
But then the Electoral Commission holds the view that you're trying to make them look bad in order for you to look good to win your next election.
No, it's not about somebody trying to make somebody look good or look bad. We're talking about facts. You can't create facts, and you can't dispute facts. What are the facts? Facts number one. When the EC sends a constitutional instrument, CI, to Parliament, it attaches the various documents that go with it.
Right.
Okay, so those are in the annexure. On those forms, we have the Form 8A and B, which we call the pink sheets. There's a column that records the BVD, the number of people who came to vote with the BVD.
Right.
Now, that is critical, because at every election, you have people who vote with the BVD and some who do not vote with the BVD. That column helps you to do what we call ballot accounting. So let's say, for instance, in your polling station, you have 500 people, but on the D-Day, 400 people voted with the BVD, and then 10 people voted without the BVD. That brings you to 410, okay? On the morning of the election, you calculate the number of ballot papers that came to you. So 100 sheets, 50 sheets, so that's your 500. Now, at the close of the day, you would have to look at the number of people who voted with BVD, those who voted without BVD, and check it with the ballots in the ballot box. Once you do not have a record of those who voted with the BVD, anybody can add ballots to the ballot paper, and you would have no way of knowing.
I see.
And that is what happened. So when we did our pink sheet audit, first of all, after the 1st of December, we went for a review meeting, and we noticed that the accounting sheet, the Form 8A and B, had been tampered with. That is illegal. That is unconstitutional.
So you have learned your lessons, essentially.
Yes, but it's important,
and you're hoping that in 2024 these things will not occur again.
Because it's important that the public understand the gravity of the things that went on. That is what opened the floodgates for ballot stuffing, particularly in the Ashanti region, where strange ballots found their way into the ballot. But because you didn't have the BVD record, which is serious illegality, it opened the room for those kinds of manifestations. So yes, we've learned our lessons, and going forward into 2024, we're going to ensure that this is...
Why do you think you're better qualified than Fifi Fiavikwete and Dr. Peter Boamo Tokuno, who presently is the Deputy General Secretary? Some believe he has been in that role for at least 2 times, and it's possible that he could be General Secretary. You have been there before, by the way. But what makes you more qualified than the other 2 gentlemen?
So I started my leadership journey at the highest level of leadership in the University of Ghana. Anybody who understands the dynamics of campus politics will tell you that it takes a lot to be the leader at that level. We're all in the university.
Tokuno was JCR president of Comowa Hall.
Exactly. So the JCR president served under the SRC president. The SRC president is the SRC president. So you cannot even begin to compare an SRC president to a JCR president. Beyond that, I've held that position before. Now, if you're going to look for a job, there are requirements. In our party, the Constitution states what a General Secretary should do.
Right.
The Constitution is very clear. Article 26 talks about the General Secretary as the head of administration of the party. And then the General Secretary is to supervise the organization of the party and the campaigns. So in terms of administration, I have acted as General Secretary on many occasions. When Honorable Asidun Ketia was out of the country, or has been out of the country on many occasions. So I've been in that seat before. In terms of organization, my greatest skill is the capacity to organize and mobilize people and bring people together. When you are elected a leader, it doesn't mean you know better than everybody, but you have the capacity to bring people together, and that I've done. The Constitution says you must be the coordinator of all the campaigns. So parliamentary campaign, presidential campaign. So who best of all my other competitors, who has run a campaign before? I have done it. I've been campaign coordinator for primaries twice. I've been campaign coordinator for the main election. You know what it means to be a campaign coordinator?
But Otukun has been what, deputy campaign coordinator,
No.
spokesperson, or what?
So
One of
I'm
those
saying,
roles.
so
you say you have done cumulative. You have done more than all of them combined.
Exactly.
So you are better placed. Does your party
Susan,
think same of you?
Of
The
course.
party grassroots, the
Of course,
base,
of
today
course,
think
of course, and the results will show.
Some think that you are a better hype man. You make John Mahama look better. Choboy, John Mahama, say, and they think that, look, you should stay in that position because in 2024, the MPP will come strongly through that route and you should stay at your director of elections, the big hype man, to be able to get John Mahama to win. What do you say to that?
Do you know that people didn't even know that I had a university degree?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my boys were downstairs one time at the party. Oh, yeah, just what you're saying. Oh, honorable, he's... the guy said, but the man was a lecturer in the university. He said, oh, no. So, what is it? Should I carry my degree on my head? Should I carry my degree on my head and be jumping around? Respectfully, I mean, when it comes to experience, administrative experience, academia, I'm not comfortable talking about this because at the end of the day, the important thing is what you do with those things. But I'm a Harvard-trained person, I have been trained in adaptive leadership. I've done several courses all over the world, Defense Academy, so many things. So I don't just like flaunting these things. You understand me? So people only got to see a certain part of the work, which is the platform and the chobwe and all those things. But that is just 30% of the work.
The MPP is poised to break the 8.
Yeah.
At least the president keeps speaking about it, key party officials, irrespective of our situation presently. And they are confident that they will win. Will the NDC win in 2024?
The MPP has only succeeded in breaking the economy, breaking our judicial system, breaking the entire system. Anything that is worthy has been broken by the MPP. So they can only continue breaking. They can't break any 8. This government is an unmitigated disaster. And I've described them as a kakistocracy. This government has failed in every single aspect of governance. And you see, when we say these things, it is not NDC saying it. There are global indices for measuring performance of government. Fitch, Standard & Poor's, Bloomberg, Moody's, World Bank, IMF. The data speaks for itself in every single aspect. Talk about inflation. By the time we're leaving office, what were the inflation rates? Today, inflation is off the roof. And even the figures they're giving us are not realistic. Okay? Talk about debt to GDP ratio. In our time, highest was 56%. Today, what is it? We've gone beyond 100. We are now a junk economy. This economy is junk, rubbish. Okay? And in the midst of this, you can look at us, talk about the exchange rate. What was the exchange rate by the time we left office? Less than 4 cedis. Today, is officially they'll tell you it's under 10 cedis, but you can't get the forest unless you go to the Forest Bureau. It's over 11 cedis. And they have the nerve and effrontery to tell us they're going to break their aid. Break their aid to do what? It's complete disrespect. They don't even understand what is going on. The president, as far as I'm concerned, is totally lost in a cloud of haze. He has achieved his childhood ambition to become president. So if you look at his utterances and his posture, you realize that he doesn't even know what is going on. So they cannot break their head. That is a dream, It's I was going to say something.
So some people think that the NDC and the MPP are almost the same. Different teams wearing the same jersey at one point in time. Is it your opinion that the NDC now is clean enough, in inverted commas, to lead the country in 2024?
Those who say the NDC and MPP are the same are mostly disappointed MPP people, but who do not have the humility to admit that their government has failed.
Really?
Yes. Because, I mean, on what basis are we the same? You understand? There must be a basis. And I've shown you the statistics. It's very clear. on every indicator. Debt to GDP ratio, inflation, exchange rates.
Russia, Ukraine, COVID-19.
Ridiculous. Russia, Ukraine, COVID-19. The IMF and the donor community and the rating agencies started warning this country long before Russia, Ukraine. In any case, Russia, Ukraine did not only affect Ghana, it affected all the countries in the sub-region. Look at all these countries, even Togo, Burkina Faso, where rebels have taken over more than half of the country. Look at Abidjan, look at Cote d'Ivoire, look at all the countries, look at the indices. So Russia, Ukraine affected all these countries. We even benefited more because we had over 20-something billion, inflows during that period. What did we do with it? We used it, we squandered it for party political purposes. So we messed up the huge opportunities that came to us. And all these countries, if you look at the indicators, we are way far off. Didn't Russia and Ukraine affect them too? Didn't COVID affect them too? So it's a complete misnomer.
If Dr. Bawumia wins the primaries, would that be your headache? Or would you rather prefer Alan Tremantin? As General Secretary, I'm looking at you. Let's say you've won General Secretaryship. Right?
Amen. It shall come to pass.
And I'm not. I'm looking at you. I'm looking.
No, you are prophesying, but you don't. Sometimes you can prophesy without knowing. You sometimes you can prophesy. Even in the Bible, donkeys prophesied. So you are a man filled with the Spirit of God. So you are prophesying. Let's go on.
You're manufacturing my concerns there. But who will be your headache? Is it Dr. Bawumia or Alan Tremantin?
Which one of them? Are they not part of the same team? They're all part of the same team. There's no difference. Somebody said same difference. There's nothing, any of them. If people say, and Alan, really? Alan Tremantin, for real? Bawumia, they're part of the cabinet. They're all part of the team. If they had any ideas, all these 6 years, the CD is running. I don't know whether it's going to Ukraine or to Russia. The CD is running. They should chase that CD and bring it back. Okay? It's a complete mess. They've all been part of the problem. Look, let me tell you my analysis. I'll give you an analogy.
Okay.
The country today, and I'm saying this with all seriousness, 2024 is not just about NDC and MPP.
What is it about? 2024
is about the future of this country. 2024 is about the future of our children and our children's children. This country is going in a direction that will lead to doom under this MPP. The only way we can save this country is when we have a change of the government. So let's say a patient, Ghana is a patient.
Right.
We've given it to a doctor, the government. This doctor has sat down and looked at a patient who perhaps had headaches, was not feeling very well, and they took this patient to this MPP doctor, Nanado and his Bawumia and his Alan and co, and now the patient is bleeding from the mouth, the nose, the ear, from every orifice. The patient is bleeding profusely. The patient is almost in a coma. That's where we are now. And this doctor is totally clueless. In fact, the more he tries to apply whatever injections or whatever medication, the more the patient is bleeding. That is Ghana. Everything the MPP is proposing to do is leading to more bleeding. So they have completely lost it. They don't know what to do. They are totally clueless. The only way to save this patient that is almost in a coma, if not in a coma already, is to change the doctor. Because the doctor has had the opportunity to apply all his knowledge and skills and medication to the patient, and the situation is getting worse by the day. You know, I shudder to think of what is going to happen to this country 2023, 2024, before by the grace of God, the NDC will come back to power. The only way is to stop the bleeding, remove the doctor.
Is John Mahama the guy to lead the NDC in 2024?
John Mahama definitely stands.
Is there.
John Mahama definitely stands tall. I've seen various other people showing their interest. Definitely, when the time comes and they all put in their bid, we'll create a level playing field. But one fact we cannot run away from is that in 2024, whose record are we going to run on? Whose record are we going to run on? Is it not John Mahama that led the NDC? So whatever it is, we are going to run on that record, and it's something that we have to reckon with. In fact, when I sit back and I look at the things that we were able to do under the leadership of John Mahama for 4 years, and if you're really stricto sensu, it was 3 years and 4 months because of the court case. And I look at the various achievements in every department, infrastructure, airports, schools, roads, hospitals. It's incredible. And I think that the NDC could have done much more better in propagating the achievement. And when I become General Secretary, believe me, that is going to be a major part of our agenda. People must know
your achievements.
Yeah, people must know, because I meet various people from all walks of life, and when I begin to tell them we did this, they say, well, but we didn't know about them. You know, you were not, forthright enough. And then we also did not defend, some of the things that were thrown against him, all kinds of things. Completely false. He has nothing to do with him, and yet we allowed it to stick. He has a shipyard in Japan. He has houses in Dubai. You think this government, if they found an Atakpame house in Dubai or anywhere that belonged to John Mahama, will be sitting here?
You regret not responding to those things?
We could have done better. That's the point I'm making. We could have done better. We could have been more forceful.
The NPP called John Mahama incompetent on how he managed the economy. At the time, he had borrowed about 200 million or so. Now we're past 400 million. What would be your verdict? What would you say? How would you describe the government?
Oh, honestly, I can't find the words. To be very honest with you,
you don't have a dictionary
useless
and Harvard trained.
That's why I said they are a kakistocracy. That's why, because people don't understand it. So your team can put it on the screen. It's a kakistocracy.
Sorry.
Kakistocracy.
We're wrapping up. Give me a minute. Let me quickly ask you. Have you heard that the immediate past chairman of the NPP is the legal representation of the 4 others in the Aisha 1 case? How does that come to you in the fight against Galamsey?
On one hand, I'm not surprised. On the other hand, I'm just amazed by their brazenness, their disrespect and contempt for Ghanaians. Because everybody who needs to know, or who ought to know, knows that this whole Galamsey thing that they are doing, fight against Galamsey, is a charade. It's a complete charade.
Really?
Oh, yes, it's a complete charade. I mean, it is the MPP that has bought equipment, so-called mercury-free equipment, distributed it to their party apparatchiks to do the mining.
That's a serious allegation.
It is not an allegation. You can send your team to go to the mining areas and find out those who are involved in the mining. Why? Didn't you hear Otumfuo say who is in charge of security in this country with the so-called Galamsey task force? Have you done an area view of our water bodies across the country? The Galamsey menace and the state of our water bodies and the environmental degradation is an epitome of the failure of the MPP. But they are benefiting from it. So forget about all the things that they are saying. It's just for propaganda.
Will NDC stop Galamsey?
We will put in place measures to ensure that the current state of degradation is reversed. Definitely, we cannot go along these lines.
We're going. That's your camera. 30 seconds for you. What would you tell the electorate?
So, this is your brother and your friend, your colleague, your comrade, Elvis Ankrah. I've done it before, 2008, did it 2012. 2020, we put in our best efforts. The momentum is on our side. Ghanaians are calling for change and vote for me when I declare my intention for General Secretary, and I'll lead you, and together we'll work hard to win the 2024 elections. Minda mofia moni kwa washi. Akeke biye shenye kayomi. Madakuku, madashara na don kujina. Na dojia mi adako na. Mesro bibiara se mrene swa. Muntu aba mame. Mayebida. Intimi asa ayebium. Timuntu mame. Sebe ya mema be General Secretary na mo di monim. Said ya 2008 me di monim. And 2012 nso me di monim. Saa na ye be di monim na nkunim die nso asan aba.
My guest has been Elvis Ankrah, Director of Elections of the NDC. He wants to be General Secretary of the NDC, and we've been having that conversation. We'll see you after the break. There's sports and some more conversation on TV3 Newday. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you. The time is too short.